This is the Ethanol Report, the industry podcast from the Renewable Fuels Association since 2008. I'm Cindy Zimmerman. All right, I am speaking with Jeff Cooper, the president and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, and we were planning on talking about the upcoming National Ethanol Conference next month and unleashing ethanol. And we're going to start out instead talking about how Congress is keeping ethanol leashed up. And Jeff, let's talk about what happened this week in Congress with E15 that is just hard to believe.
It is hard to believe, Cindy, and you're exactly right. Congress had a golden opportunity to unleash ethanol today and unleash new corn demand. And they missed that opportunity yet again. We've known for several months now that the appropriation bills that are moving through Congress this week would be our best opportunity to get year-round E15 legislation done. We've been very focused on this moment, this opportunity. Everyone on the Hill had been telling us, yep, that you got to focus on, put your focus at the end of January, and that's when we're going to get something done. Get your coalition together, get your strategy together, and we'll get this legislation over the goal line in January. Well, here we are. We did everything that we were asked to do. We assembled that coalition with the American Petroleum Institute and numerous other refining industry interests and all of the farm groups and the retailers and truck stops. And we all agreed on this is what the legislation ought to look like. Handed it off to Congress. The idea was that the Senate was going to lead on this, and it didn't happen that way. When the Senate sent its final appropriations pieces over to the House late on Sunday, E15 was not included for reasons that we're still trying to understand. And so then it fell to the House to take action. And Congressman Nunn from Iowa introduced an amendment to get that legislation back in the mix. We were in play for a couple of days, but unfortunately, there's a group of no more than half a dozen mid-sized refining companies, including some foreign-owned companies, by the way, that were working overtime to blow this up. And unfortunately, it looks like they were successful. So, now we have a situation where Congress is going to kick the can again on getting E15 legislation done. The House leadership and the Rules Committee have decided they're going to create a council, a domestic energy council, they're calling it, that will consist of members of Congress. And the idea is they're going to keep working on these issues for the next month with the goal of having, legislation ready to consider by February 25th. And as we look at that, it's like we already have legislation. The draft is already done. This is the time to consider it. This is the time to get it passed, get it over the goal line. We've heard these promises and commitments before that we're going to get around to this, and they haven't panned out for 10 years. And so here we are. Farmers are thinking about planting season, have no prospect of increased demand coming off of a 17 billion bushel corn crop. And they need real solutions right now. They don't need more foot dragging, don't need more debate. We don't need a council. We don't need more study on this issue. We just need to get this bill done. And, unfortunately, we've known, like I said, for months that this was going to be our best opportunity and very likely our only opportunity this year, or certainly until September, for this legislation to move. So we are very, very disappointed. You're just extremely frustrated with the way that this played out this week. And I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't have high hopes for the process that this council is going to undertake. We don't even know what that process looks like. We don't really know who's going to be part of this council, other than we know it's going to be co-chaired by Congressman Feenstra from Iowa, which is great, but also by Congresswoman Bice from Oklahoma, who has two of these problem refineries in her state. And so we don't know what this process is going to look like. And I'm not optimistic currently that we're going to have legislation done by February 25th that resolves this issue in an agreeable way. So very frustrating for us. We've circled the wagons here and trying to figure out what our next steps and what our next best opportunities are.
Well, taking a look at some of the reactions from across the industry to what has happened this week, there seems to be a real sense of betrayal and defeat after working on this issue for so long, and after the first Trump administration did approve it back in 2019 for one summer before that got taken away. But it just seems like there aren't even strong enough words to express how you all feel about this at this point.
No, there really aren't, and I mean the frustration is just palpable. The disillusionment among our farmer friends. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. They have been working so hard alongside of us, shoulder to shoulder, to try and get this done. That it just breaks your heart when when Congress isn't able to deliver something that should be fairly simple and straightforward. This is a simple technical fix. The actual E15 language is maybe a page and a half of legislative text, but they just can't get it done. It doesn't seem like, and it's just very troubling, very frustrating. And you're right. President Trump had fixed this issue during his first term. He directed EPA to address this administratively with a rulemaking process. They did that. And then the refineries sued EPA, sued the Trump administration, got that rule overturned in 2021. And so we are back in a situation where retailers can't sell E15 in the summer months. And now it's some of those same refineries that sued the Trump administration 5 years ago that are, laying on the tracks and causing problems again, and standing in the way of getting this done, even though the other 95% of the refining sector supports this, and you've got, just broad-based support across the entire ag and really transportation fuel sector. So you're right. It's hard to express how disappointing this is and how dejected we all feel after investing so much time and effort and emotion and passion into trying to get something done that should be a no-brainer. We're not asking for a mandate. This isn't requiring E15. This is simply giving retail gas stations the choice to sell that fuel to their consumers and give those customers a choice, a chance to buy that fuel if they choose to do so. We're not asking for the moon and stars here, and it just is incredible that Congress has not found the will to get this done.
Well, you mentioned how heartbreaking it is for the farmers, and this is really a desperate situation on the farm right now. And Congress has to be aware of how dire it is, and just finally getting E15 approved nationwide would be so helpful to the farmers, and it would cost virtually nothing.
Yeah, it wouldn't cost the government a penny to do this. And in fact, there's been some analysis done, including some work by the Congressional Budget Office, that shows there would be a savings. And one of the things that I think we sort of learned over this last week is there is a serious lack of appreciation in Washington, D.C. today for how dire things are in farm country and how desperate things are in farm country. And, just a lack of appreciation for the fact that you've got a lot of farmers that are at the end of their rope. This is the third year in a row of negative margins, fourth year for some. And it's just a hopeless feeling situation when your elected leaders aren't holding up their end of the bargain and aren't doing anything to help out with this situation. I don't know how we get out of this. The easy solution here, the easy answer to helping lift agriculture up would have been to pass this bill, get year-round E15 going in the marketplace. That is the near-term solution. That's why this has been the corn growers' top priority. They understand that the quickest way to get a shot in the arm and boost demand and get prices back up to levels where they can at least break even is take more of that corn and grind it into ethanol. And we can't do that in the ethanol industry if we don't have a market to sell more ethanol into. So it's just common sense. But yeah, I think there's just a gross misunderstanding or lack of appreciation for how bad things truly are in farm country. And unfortunately, unless Congress does something pretty quick, I think, there will be a far better understanding of just how bad things are later this year, when bankruptcies keep piling up and farmers are going out of business.
Well, and that's another issue is that Congress also did not include any further supplemental aid for farmers in this budget bill, right?
Right. It wasn't. And so now there's talk about, well, maybe a supplemental farm aid package and maybe E15 can fit there. But again, we've been hearing these promises, we've been hearing these commitments over and over, and the can keeps getting kicked down the road, and nothing is happening. And there's only so long that farmers can tolerate that. You ask any farmer, would you want another payment from USDA to help keep you afloat, or do you want a new market opportunity to sell your product into? And they're all going to say, we want a new market opportunity. And again, that's why you look at the National Corn Growers Association and the Farm Bureau and everybody else. Their priorities are on building markets and opening new markets and stimulating new demand for their products. It isn't as much focused on, wanting or needing another bailout. Nobody wants that. We're not going to give up. We're not going away on this. But this is a pretty big blow to the industry, and we're going to have to figure out how to circle the wagons here and try again, make another run at this.
Well, this deadline for this new council to come up with some new legislation for E15 is coincidentally coming up right around the same time as the National Ethanol Conference next month in Orlando, February 24th through the 26th, with the theme Ethanol Unleashed. So how will this be setting the tone for the meeting this year?
Well, you're right, Cindy, that February 25th deadline for this council to consider legislation is during our conference. And so that's going to be interesting. But again, the whole focus of our event this year is on unleashing American ethanol and unleashing new opportunities for corn growers and this nation's farmers. And unfortunately, the pathway to doing that often runs through Washington, D.C. or through state capitals, and is related to policy and regulatory issues. And in many cases, not asking for new policy or a new program. We're asking to remove existing barriers that have been keeping our product from reaching the marketplace. So, heavy focus at the conference this year on what are those solutions for unleashing greater ethanol demand, greater demand for corn, greater value for both commodities. And of course, E15 is a big part of that. We do still hope that we'll have some good news to share on E15 when we get to the conference. And we do have, good news. We got California to finally approve E15. That's a piece of the puzzle. But it goes beyond that. We're going to be talking about exports and the incredible opportunity that increasing exports has provided to the ethanol industry, and by extension, our friends in the corn industry in recent years, and how to build on that momentum and continue growing and expanding those markets. And then we're going to be talking about longer term opportunities, sustainable aviation fuel, certainly, but also maritime fuel. And we see an incredible opportunity and huge role that ethanol can play in reducing carbon emissions from the maritime sector. Globally, that sector consumes 80 billion gallons of fuel a year. So there are some big opportunities, big new market potential on the horizon, but a lot of those things are longer term. So, we're going to be focused on those, but also what can be done in the short term to really give that shot in the arm that we're talking about. And that's all E15. So we're going to be looking at other ways to get this done. And, we saw a couple of years ago that 8 governors in the Midwest said, hey, if Congress can't get this done, we're going to figure out ways that we can get this done. And, so maybe we go back to that strategy where states are opting out of the 1 pound RVP waiver for E10 to force the marketplace to deliver the proper gasoline blend stock for year-round E15 blending. And we'll be, considering other creative solutions to get us there. But, in addition to the issues I talked about, we're also going to be, of course, as we always do at the NEC, bringing in outside experts to help us understand broader trends that are happening at the global level and at the national level in kind of the larger energy sector. But also, we're going to have a keynote speaker on AI and what the rapid emergence of artificial intelligence means, not just for our national security and our energy security and kind of geopolitical issues, but what does it mean for our businesses in the ethanol industry? So those are the sorts of issues we're going to be covering this year. I'm really looking forward to it as always, and it's just the the best event of the year to get everybody in the industry together, get them recharged, get them ready for the battles that we know are coming in the year ahead, um, and just get caught up. So we're looking forward to the event in Orlando, and certainly looking forward to the nicer weather that we're expecting down there.
As far as registration is concerned, what should people do? I think you still have some early bird registration deals going on, right?
We do, but only for another week or so. So I would strongly encourage people, if they haven't yet registered, to go to our website, ethanolrfa.org. You'll see the National Ethanol Conference featured there on the website with information on how to register. It'll take you to a separate website that's dedicated to the NEC, and folks can sign up to attend there. And like you said, there's another week or so of early bird savings for registration fees, and after that, people are going to be paying full freight. So we would encourage folks to get registered. We are expecting a big crowd. Our registrations so far this year are running ahead of last year, which was, I think, the largest event we'd had in 6 or 7 years. So, going to be a good group, big group, gathering together in Orlando to discuss all things ethanol for a few days.
And I know you've invited a couple of administration officials and still probably waiting to hear from them, but hopefully we'll be able to have some word from the administration at the conference, right?
That's correct. We've invited both the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Environmental Protection Agency to join us at our event, because so much of what we do in the industry every single day is affected and touched by those agencies. And so we do expect to have some representatives from those departments, with us in Orlando, and providing updates from their agencies on the latest and greatest. We hope to have Administrator Zeldin from EPA and Secretary Rollins from USDA. As you said, those haven't been confirmed yet, because I think, as everybody knows, their schedules tend to be very busy, and nobody ever knows until the last minute if they're going to be able to attend. But that's the goal, and we hope to have those cabinet level folks joining us in Orlando, and if not them, certainly some higher level officials from those departments.
All right. Well, Jeff, that's pretty much all the questions I have for you right now, but wrap us up here at this point. I know we're disappointed about where E15 is right now, but give us a pep talk.
Well, I think anybody who's been around the ethanol industry for any period of time knows that this is not easy work. When you're building new markets from the ground up, it's a tough go, and when you are uh, competing against an incumbent industry that has been selling petroleum products for more than 100 years, it's tough. But they also know that we don't give up, and we certainly are not giving up here at RFA. We're going to find other ways to continue expanding markets and growing opportunities for our members, for the entire ethanol industry, and from our friends in the corn sector. And we don't give up. We don't give up in this industry. This is a setback. It's a bump in the road, but I remain incredibly optimistic about the future of this industry. Ethanol is a great product. Nothing that Congress says or does is going to change that. It is a fantastic product. It's more affordable than gasoline. It's lower carbon intensity. It reduces tailpipe emissions. It's higher octane. So we have a lot going for us in the ethanol industry. We just need a little help from time to time, and we're not going to give up on doing everything we can to get that.
And like you said, we can't forget about California, because that really is new demand that
That's
will be
right.
coming online here, right? They're coming down soon, right?
Yeah, California was a market that was entirely closed to E15. There was no chance of selling a drop of E15 in the California market a year ago or even 6 months ago. That has changed because of our efforts and our work with the legislature in California and the governor's office and others. And we do expect to see the door swing open in California to gallons of E15 this year, and that will make a noticeable difference, we think, to the overall supply demand picture for ethanol and for corn, and get us started moving in the right direction again.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff. Once again, if you want to find out more about this year's National Ethanol Conference, you can go to ethanolrfa.org or to the NEC website, nationalethanolconference.com. That's it for this edition of the Ethanol Report. Thanks for listening.